Hey, it's Dan, and welcome to Unified Gaming. So in this one, we're going to play Trash or Grab, the game where we check the weekly events to see are the items worth grabbing or they absolute trash. As with this series, this is updated every single week, and this is recorded on the 12th of April 2025, so if you are watching in the future, things will be different. With the vendors themselves, we're going to check the Golden Vendor, the Infinite Archive, the Scalarium and the Telfar Vendor. To access the Golden Vendor, you can find her in Cyrodiil at the Northern High Rock Gate if you're on DC. If you're on AD, you can find it at the Western Elsewhere Gate. And if you're on EP, you can find it at the Southern Morrowind Gate. As with this series, if you want to stay up to date with it, then likes and comments are helped, but do subscribe if you haven't done so. And as always, a massive thank you to all the YouTube and Patreon members who support. For the items this week, we have the Light Speaker Ring. This increases your restoration skills and makes them do just more healing. It's not worth it in all honesty. You can get enough healing in PvE, and in PvP there are just better sets that will give you healing and damage. But I would personally skip this set here. We then have Shroud of the Lich. This is a dungeon set. This used to be really good. When you cast a skill and battle that uses magicka, you get magicka recovery back. It's a lot of recovery. It's got a 20-second cooldown. You can backbar this. It's a minute cooldown total, so it's 20-second uptime. Minute cooldown says 40 seconds in the middle where you just get no sustain from this. So you're better just using Wretched Vitality. It's on all of the time, and then over the minute, essentially you get more sustain with Wretched anyway, plus stamina sustain. So I would skip this. This is only really good if you want to go on a build where you're going to go really hyper aggressive for like 20 seconds and then reset and wait for a little while and then repeat. So I sort of could use this, and after that 20-second window's up, you just run away and reset. But you're better with Wretched Vitality in most cases. We then have the Wired Tree. This, when you cast a magic ability, removes just debuffs from you. So it sounds really cool on paper, but it's a 15-second cooldown. So in practicality, when you're using this in PvP, if someone hits you with Elemental Susceptibility, that's Major Breach, that's Burning, Chilled and Concussion, that's 4 debuffs already in one cast. They do a light attack with that as well, which lands at the same time. You could get double dot poisons on that, or Glyph, or like Saundered. So you could get 5-6 debuffs within 1 second. So this doesn't reset loads of debuffs quickly, because people just put them back on you so fast. You're better running something like Curse Eater, which will just reset and remove the negative effects consistently over an entire fight, which is more useful than this 15-second big cleanse. So I would skip this personally. You then have Witchman's Ring. This is basically the Dragon Knight's Battle Roar passive, so when you use an ultimate you get health, magic and stamina back per ult. It's a lot of resource back in all honesty. The issue is it doesn't give you damage. You're better just using a different set if you want to sustain like Wretched Vitality, because it's more consistent. And with the new subclass and coming next patch, there is a video on the channel if you haven't seen it, like massive changes, do check it out. But with the subclasses you can put on the DK skill line to get access to that passive anyway, which makes this set redundant, so I wouldn't get this. We then have 2 shoulder pieces this week. My kind of recommendation as a PvP player primarily is, if it's a shoulder, you generally want to consider it because it saves you having to do dungeons and dailies and buy keys and RNG and all that stuff. So I'd always lean more favourably on a shoulder than a helmet, because it does remove some of that randomness. That said, this shoulder is pretty good as well. The one piece, it gives you magicka and stamina. Most one pieces give you just one or the other. So this is a really strong one piece by itself if you use this just one of these. There's also another set that does exactly the same one piece, which is Dummy Horse, which means you can get 2000 magicka and stamina on your monster set, which is really nice, especially on a magicka sorcerer where you can push that magicka pool even higher. So this is really worth getting. The other use for PvE is that this 2-piece, when you block, you pull enemies to you from a distance, so which means if you're playing like a necromancer and your armor buff pulls people to you, it's basically that but as a set. It also taunts them, so you spin strands around and you taunt them 15 seconds. What's also nice is that you can use this as a werewolf block tank. So if you're on a werewolf, you can actually become a tank with this set in PvE. So again, this is a really good tank set if you don't have, access to skills you'd normally need. It also means you don't need the Void Bash set, which does the same thing, but This just does it at range, so it helps really just keep people to you quickly. So I'd buy this, and you'll see that I own all of these, and I actually bought one of these today. So buy this if you can. PvP wise, if you are going to buy one, maybe the medium in the impen. The rest of it just infused because they're more PvE stuff. The second monster set is Falcon Scoria. This gives you 1 piece penetration, and when you deal direct damage with a damage over time effect, so when you do your dot on them, it ticks, it has a small chance to do some fire damage. The damages you'll see when I put my damage buff, it does scale on your weapon and spell damage, which is kind of good and bad, because lots of classes like Magicka, for example, actually stack max resource for their damage. So stacking max resource means this set becomes useless for you because you can't increase the damage with high max Magicka. So there is that to bear in mind. So this is really good on high spell damage builds. The other thing to note is that when you use this, it's a really low chance. So you have to really stack on dots and just hope RNG is in your favour. If you have double dot poisons and some status effects, you're going to be fine. If you've got a full dot build, you will see this proc almost instantly on cooldown. It's really, really good for that. So I would recommend, if you're playing a dot build like the Infector that's on the channel, this is worth getting. The other use for this in PvP is the One Piece. You will see it on the channel. I've put quite a few Nightblade builds recently, and this shows that you need 1 piece penetration. Krog is the set we normally use, but this has it here and it looks nicer, so I would personally buy this because the dungeon's a bit annoying to do and you can use it in multiple ways. For PvE, it's just a free damage over time. Treat it like that. There are better monster sets. The advantage of that is that it does help you do more kind of consistent damage at range. You don't need to be next to targets like Zahn and stuff, so it has a use, especially in mobile fights. It's just not the best. We're now going to go over and check the Infinite Archive and then the Scholarium, and then we'll round it off by checking the Imperial City vendor. The Infinite Archive can be located in Apocrypha. Here you'll find a vendor called Violet All. The Violet All will sell a range of things, typically leads for mythic items. He'll also sell sometimes scripts that are decent, some scripts are mid, and he does sell some cosmetics. We're going to focus from a gameplay perspective as always. Once you get inside, you want to go as far east as you can, and when you get here, he's just over here by this desk. He appears here every Tuesday to Tuesday, so we just do the video in one go. This week he is selling a lead for the Ebon Dwarven Wolf. This is a mount you can get through the scribing system. It is a bit of a grind. It does look really cool in all honesty. If you don't have a nice mount, this is a nice mount. I just don't think it's worth the 5,000 fortunes. I'd rather just grind the lead. They're not too hard to get in all honesty. So I'd probably skip this one here. You then have the Ring of Stone. This is a furnishing. That's PvE stuff. I don't really mind, but I don't do that, so I'd just skip this. I don't think it's worth it. The style page this week is Mighty Tudor. If you like Morrowind and you played the original Morrowind, it looks some of the guard helmets. It looks a bit like that, so the Red Rand guards and so on. So this for cosmetic reasons, but I would skip this. It's expensive. I wouldn't waste my fortunes on this. For the scripts this week, we have Defile, Frost, and Anchorite's Potency. Defile is okay. It's not the best, but it's decent enough. If you don't know this script on any character, it's going to be 5 times this cost of 10,000. I know this on other characters, that's why it's only 2,000. So just be mindful that these prices may be significantly higher if one of your characters know this. And if your character knows it directly, you can't buy it on that character, so you have to change character. I would recommend personally, consider the Frost script. The Defile is a bit naff. I wouldn't rush to buy this. I would just wait till it drops. It's not that useful in all honesty. And the Potency is very underwhelming. The Frost script, if you use this one, you are able to go and create a Frost spammable with Soul Burst and have an AoE. So you could do Frost damage, you could put on a Snare for example, and then have Sustain. Or you could go and put on Courage for more damage for yourself. This will hit people, it will snare them so they move slower and it gives you Courage, which is quite nice. You could also put Defiance, which becomes a pseudo cleanse. You could go and put on a dot, so you get damage over time. You can put on your Mastery if you're a Warden. This is very good because it becomes a stun as well. So, there's some good uses there for that. You can also use it on Willed Soul, and with Frost damage, it becomes a Frost spammable. You'd then pair this with something like Lingering Torment, and then you'd then put on Breach. This then becomes a really good frost spammable, and what's nice with this is that this will proc Winterborn, which is a really good PvP set. So Winterborn needs frost damage to be applied. It cannot be applied by glyphs. This will fix all of that, which means you can use it on any class, and it hits really hard, really consistently. So this, personally, I would buy if you don't have. The potency is a bit of a weird one. It's very easy to mix it up, and I've done it myself. In the signature scripts, you've got cruelty and potency. Potency just gives you ult gem for using a soul gem. It's not good. It's really bad. The cruelty is the one that's a little bit better, but it's still a bit underwhelming. So the potency, I wouldn't rush to buy. On the soul burst, when you use it down here, it gives you ult again. It's just not great. You can use this for group play somewhat, but again, it's just not great. So for me personally, I would skip that one. We're now going to go over to the Scalarium. This is in Evea, and we're going to look at the scripts here before rounding off with the Telvar vendor. As you've seen, the Filer all, in all honesty, has one good script. The rest are pretty bad. The Golden vendor has 2 good items. The monster sets are pretty good. I'll get both of those. And then Lich, maybe if you want a very offensive Sulk, and then you're going to reset. But I think Wretched is better overall, so I wouldn't buy that. Once you get inside to the Scalarium, you will have to have completed the quest to access this vendor down here. You do need to complete this first one for him to appear, and you get an achievement, which means any character that you bring here who has done the introductory quest can see this vendor, and he will sell scripts and grimoires. The grimoires he sells are always here, so ignore this. The scripts this week are Expedition, Bleed, and Immobilize. The Expedition can be pretty good, so if you're in PvE, this is worth considering. It's just gold. It might be a bit more if you don't know it, but the reason you may want to use this is it's a speed boost for you in a group. So you could utilize this and go on to something like Trample, for example, which is the assault skill line, and then you could go and put on the affix and then put on Expedition. As part of this skill, you can put on whatever you like here. So maybe you want to put a stun, maybe you want to put a dispel and get rid of AoEs off the floor, maybe knock back to get things out of the way when you're running. You can also put on Thief Swiftness to give people a speed boost. So you can end up having a skill that gives you Major Expedition, and allies it also gives them another 15% speed boost, so it's a big speed boost, and it knocks things out of the way. Quite good in PvE for just running through dungeons, so that is worth considering in all honesty, but I wouldn't rush to buy this. You then have Bleed, which is pretty bad in all cases. The only time you might use this is putting it on Wield Soul. So on the Grimoires, if you go to Wield Soul, you can put Bleed here now, which means you can proc some sets you can't normally do, or you might want to use certain sets like Dragon's Appetite, I think it's called, which needs bleed damage to proc, so it can be pretty decent. It wouldn't be a go-to in my opinion. We then have Immobilize and Strike. This is pretty good, I'd buy this. If you are playing in PvE, you can use it on Soul Burst, you can put Immobilize here, you can put on Hunter's Snare, and then you can put on Courage, Breach. You'll probably use Breach in all honesty for this. And what this will do is it will immobilize people around you, it will snare them, and it will hit them with Breach. Which means that you have made Talons. It doesn't do damage, but it's basically a Talons, so it's quite good in PvE. If you don't have access to Talons on your class, this is a good solution. It's more of a tank skill. You can do a similar thing with Contingency as well. So Immobilize, this is a delayed, and you can put on Growing Impact, Warrior's Opportunity for more damage, Hunter Snare again, Class Mastery. So if you are on a Warden, you can put Class Mastery here. You've got an Immobilize or a Stun with the Class Mastery and a Warden. So this becomes a Immobilize / stun skill, which is quite good. And then you can then put on Vulnerability so they take more damage, or Breach. I'd go Vulnerability personally. It will just help with just getting kills, or even the sustain is quite nice too. The final place we have to check is the Imperial City vendor, and the vendor here will sell stuff for Telvar. I will just say with Fernando and with this one here, these are always gold, so if you don't know them, just buy them. You're going to be thankful in the long run. And a big tip for that is you can bank them as well. So that means that you can buy one on one character and take it through on the bank, and then pick it out on a different character. Once you get into the Imperial City, you're looking for this banner icon. You'll see it on PC EU. This is why I have add-ons down here and so on. and you're looking for a vendor called the Telvar vendor. She's an orc for DC, but she might be slightly different for the other alliances. And she's located here. She's a Krazalog. And here she will sell a range of different things. So some different items, some leads, and then some scripts. It is a very, very expensive vendor in all honesty, but sometimes it's worth paying the money. Farside is a really cool set. When you deal direct damage with a blink, charge, teleport, pull that is a crit, you will proc this set. So you can literally use ambush, streak, this set will proc straight away. It lowers the enemy's crit resist, so you basically do more crit damage to them. The base crit resist in PvP is 1200. 40% of that is 8% damage boost. So this is an 8% damage boost or higher if they have more critical resist. So they wear any impen, you can do even more crit damage. If they have Rallying Cry, even more still. If they're both, even more still. This is also nice because it's a debuff, which means your allies also do more crit damage to them. So this becomes a really good like anti-Rallying Cry set. So I would consider getting this, and I'm going to like play around with this on Nightblade especially. So it's worth considering. The only thing I will say is it's really expensive. I would personally just look for somebody selling this in a trader and buy it from there. It's not worth this many Telvar in my opinion. These are too expensive. Kain's Kiss, this is awful. Just skip this basically. You have two leads. They are both really good leads. So you have the Preserved Waxu Feathers. This is for the Gaze of Sithis lead. It is the best lead to buy. Like if you're going to buy one thing this week, buy this. It gives you access to Gaze of Sithis, which is a helmet monster piece that gives you 5,000 armor. It gives you a couple K health. It gives you health regen, but you can't block. It's really good on some builds like Sorceress, where you shields because your block doesn't apply to shields, so quite good there. The other advantage of this lead in particular is that this is tied to a daily RNG quest. So you have to have completed and get access to the Dark Brotherhood, have leveled up the skill line in order to get the Have Equipment Today passive, so you need the Shadowy Supplier passive, and then hope he gives this lead to you. This took me about 2-3 weeks of solid farming on 6 characters to try and get this lead. So I would recommend buying this because it will save you a lot of headache if you want this mythic. It's expensive, I know, but this is 100% worth getting. You then have the lead for the Thracian Stranglers, which is over here. Now, Thracian Stranglers is a pretty good set. This is a DPS set mainly in PvE, in all honesty, because when you do damage, when you kill stuff, you get a damage boost, which is great. But if you die, you then lose it. The problem with this set, though, is that as you use this, your damage shields get less, which is not great. Your health gets less as well. So you end up having less health, less shields, so you can't stay alive easily. You can't go invisible, you can't crouch. If you go invisible or crouch, you lose it. If you die, you lose it. Sometimes when you go through certain doorways and things, you lose it. That's been fixed mainly. So it's a little bit awkward to use, but for a DPS mythic, it's very good if you're in a trial and you've killed a lot of stuff on the way there. It can be pretty good. There are better DPS mythics personally, but it's worth considering. For the lead itself, this just drops from Auradon, so it's not too difficult to get in all honesty. As such, I wouldn't like rush to get this. You just kill bosses in Auradon, but it's a good mythic. This is like the one to get though, the Gaze of Sithis. For the scripts, you have Cowardice, Intellect and Endurance, Not Back and Grown in Bat. I wouldn't buy any of these apart from maybe the Intellect and Endurance because it's quite nice on some like Nightblade builds and some Warden builds. But beyond that, the rest of these are pretty bad in all honesty. So yeah, that kind of covers it really. There's quite a lot of information in there. This is obviously coming from a primarily PvP player, so going how I'd use this. If you like me showing the superstars and stuff with how to use this, like scripts and so on, let me know in the comments below and I will keep doing that. But I'm going to kind of wrap this up here. I will be streaming later today on YouTube at 9 PM UK. So if you want to hang out, see some gameplay, just sort of chat and so on, you know, I'll see you there. If not, I'll catch you next video or stream. So I'm saying a massive thanks for the likes, the subs and the comments, and a bigger thank you to all of the support on YouTube and Patreon members who get early access, exclusive content and much more. If you want to support myself, there's details down below. But as always, I'll see you in the next one. So thanks for watching guys. Take care. Bye.